While we're getting mic'd up, I just want to introduce Hanieh Sadat. And Hanieh is on our board of directors. In fact, she's the treasurer for AREI. And you heard a little bit already about her financial acumen, but you know, Hanieh grew up in Iran, formerly known as Persia. And that is a very interesting part of the world that I've been spending a little time in lately. Well, not there, but close to there, going to Abu Dhabi each year for the last couple of years as part of the climate constellation that I'm on. And so becoming aware of what's happening in the Middle East with oil and becoming aware of how the dollar has been pegged from gold to oil as recently as the Nixon administration, I think that this is a very dynamic conversation. So Hanieh, would you mind please introducing your panel?
Absolutely. Hello? Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm sure everybody knows me by now. I'm very humbled and honored to be a treasurer of AREI, and I'm looking forward to adding more value to this community of amazing people. I set up this panel to educate our members at AREI and to tell them some of the examples of the real world examples that are using blockchain technologies in the real world and how is that accomplished. So I thought that would be an interesting panel, and I'm very happy to see a full house tonight. The panel is Blockchain for Impact. And I would like to introduce David. They're sitting. I will introduce Greg. Greg Landua. He's a founder of Regen.network, and he's a pioneer of regenerative agriculture and economy movement, plus a very successful entrepreneur. Regen Network is making it possible to track value and trade natural capital. So Greg is here to educate us about regenerative agriculture and how he's using blockchain technology to be able to track sequestration, hopefully. And there's a great discussion will come from Greg.
Thanks, Hanieh.
So I would like to start with you, Greg, that first I would like to start saying that what are the challenges and what are the problems that you're facing in your marketplace, in your industry you see, and what are the solutions you're offering by using distributed ledger technology or blockchain technology?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Hanieh. Hi, everybody. So grateful to be here and following up on that great panel. I was just jumping out of my seat, sort of thinking to myself, wow, I've found my community. So some of the things that I think there's sort of tiers. One is we're really coming up against this, some of the same data issues that were talked about in the previous panel, which is we have a fragmented, disaggregated, and totally complicated and usually pen and paper form of bringing data to make us be able to understand about the living dynamics of our planet, whether it's ocean health or soil health or biodiversity. It's very hard to have real-time quality information. So that's a huge problem. Another huge problem that our platform faces is just, ignorance around the importance of the health of our biosphere and the relationship that health has to do with core human activities like agriculture, where the understanding that we could, by making a 1% increase in soil organic carbon across all arable land, we could sequester pretty much all of the atmospheric carbon that's been emitted during the last 3 iterations of Industrial Revolution. That's huge, folks. But how do you make the change? It's a problem. People don't know. There's disaggregated data. So what we're really focused on is that sort of nexus and problem. So I'll pass it on because I know we've got a lot of other challenges that we're all facing here. Yeah.
So David Sabo, David Sabo is a founding partner of Symbol.network. He's an entrepreneur with a background in economics and software products. Symbol Network is a token architecture firm that helps companies transition into blockchain by designing sustainable token economics, which is very important in what we do. So while you can't hire McKinsey to figure out how to use blockchain, you can hire Symbol.network. There we go. So David, before we start, can you explain to us why cryptocurrency? Why we're using cryptocurrency? And what is cryptocurrency? Or crypto assets.
Okay, crypto assets, absolutely. We've seen a number of explanations tonight, but let me give you my take on it. Does any of you have a dollar bill with you?
Bring it out.
For one, just bring it out.
Bring it right out.
I would love to stand up, but probably I can't.
You're trapped.
To scam.
There you go. No. So the thing about the dollar bill is, apart from the fact that there is a consensus, working or not working, that's a different thing, that the dollar bill has value. But from a technical standpoint, the reason the dollar bill has value is only two things. There's a piece of metal in this piece of paper, and there's a serial number on the dollar bill. The piece of metal gives this dollar bill authenticity. You know that this dollar bill is authentic because there is this piece of metal in it that only one institute can put in, right? But there is also uniqueness because there is only one dollar bill that has the serial number on it. And these two things are important because with this digital transformation that we've been seeing in the last couple of decades, in contrast to the physical world where we have designed our economies and our systems and our institutions for unique and authentic things, the digital world is designed for things to be copied. And that's a problem when you want to bring money online. So all crypto assets do is they bring authenticity and uniqueness to the digital world because you cannot copy crypto assets. And that's huge. That's when everything that has value becomes programmable, and that's when your mind blows.
Thank you. So
I'm going to turn it into a Bitcoin.
You've earned that.
So would you also continue with telling us what are the challenges, problems that you're facing in your marketplace, in your industry right now, and what solutions are you offering by using blockchain technologies? Or
Sure.
distributed?
Yeah. So because I'm running this token architecture firm, and that it has been said before in the previous panel, architecture is policy. So whenever you issue a new crypto asset, a new cryptocurrency, a token, you need to design the policies around that. So blockchain as a technology has a tremendous amount of potential, but there are huge barriers to enter this industry and to realize this potential. I'm working with a number of impact projects, but as a token architect, what I'm trying to do is to solve the problem of not being able to use blockchain technology because there is no know-how on how to design these policies. The other barrier to enter this industry is technology and the tech talent. But the problem is, from the economic side, is that when you design a crypto asset, when you design a token economy, you have to design an entire economy. And it's important, who gets to design an entire economy, right? So people who have experience in stuff like this would be people with experience in public policy, or, as we've heard, in-game currencies. This is a new field. So we have this wide variety of people with PhDs and all sorts of backgrounds, and our job to make that jump to help companies like our clients to bring meaningful impact to the world by solving that specific problem, the problem of economics.
Thank you. Michael, you are an executive director of ImpactX, and you studied digital currency and blockchain technology at the University of Nicosia. Nicosia, sorry. Would you tell us what are the challenges what are the problems you're facing in the project that you're working on right now at ImpactX, and what kind of solutions you're offering?
Sure. So first, also very honored to be here. A lot of inspiring people, in this room. So similar to what David is working on at ImpactX, we help impact-focused blockchain projects go through pre and post token generation events. It's another phrase used to describe initial coin offerings, basically a project issuing their own crypto asset into the market. So one that I want to talk about in particular is something that probably hits close to home for a lot of people here, and that company is called Quipo. So Quipo is tackling the problem of deforestation, a metric that you all are maybe familiar with. Something on the order of 31 million acres of land a year are deforested, and that rate is accelerating. Since 1960, over half of the world's rainforests have been deforested. So the question is, what's the solution? How do we solve this, and where does blockchain come into play? So Quipo is building something called the Quipo protocol that basically combines the use of blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies, and specifically natural land capital in order to provide this new idea of proof of conservation. So we only have a couple of minutes, but I'll try and give a high-level explanation of how that works. So at the foundation of the Quipo protocol, and perhaps most importantly, is the actual acquisition of natural land capital. So the Quipo Foundation currently has over 8,000 hectares, something on the order of 80 million acres of actual land held in a foundation that is actual land in rainforests in Panama and Brazil. So what we're working on is actually using state-of-the-art satellite technology to basically geomap that land area and basically create unique IDs for each square meter of land and peg each square meter of land that's actually held in a real foundation to a unique crypto token. And so the second part of this Quipo protocol is this corporate social responsibility platform, a CSR platform. That's not new. So in the traditional sense, though, a traditional company could basically attach a square meter of land to a good, a service, a ticket, or any asset, an invoice that they sell to a consumer. But what's interesting and new about this protocol is that when a consumer basically makes a transaction, adds $1 to their purchase to preserve land in the Quipo Preserve, they get a redeemable code that they can go online, receive a unique token that they can actually see using the satellite technology, this specific square meter of land that they have saved. So this is really cool and interesting. Corporate social responsibility platforms to save, the rhinos, the orcas, the rainforest in this situation. That's not necessarily new, but what Quipo is offering is a new way to provide transparency and authenticity to prove that the land that these foundations say that they're preserving actually exists, and provides a more engaging way for the everyday consumer to actually see what they are preserving and engage with the animal and plants and carbon offset and all the positive environmental impacts that they're engaging with. So that's Quipo, but I'll pass it on.
So I would say a new mechanism instead of using foundation, since foundation failed to really move the needle.
Right. So
hopefully this mechanism will help us with conservations and many of the things you want to accomplish.
Exactly.
Great. Dan, you're a founder of Versus, and you've been an advisor of many companies, and you've been an advisor of United Nations, UNDP, UNESCO, and others impact organizations. So Versus, your company, provides impact projects with powerful new software tools that can be used at every stage of a project's life cycle. So can you please educate us and tell us what are the challenges you're seeing in the impact space, and what solutions are you offering by using your technology?
Absolutely. Again, great to be here with all of you. obviously we're facing a massive challenge. We're going to be lucky if we can hold it under 4 degrees centigrade. So what we need to do is accelerate our rate of amelioration process. And the best way to do that, that I know, is to provide the planet with better tools. And so I'm a Silicon Valley inventor. And so I love writing algorithms. And the way I see this moment in time, particularly with the blockchain emerging, is it's simply the third wave of the internet. First wave of the internet began in the late 60s with the basic protocols to wire all the machines together with machine addresses and allow us to have a free communication network globally so we could send email to each other. It was wonderful. And when I went to school at Berkeley for my graduate work, we all thought, this is it. This is the internet. This is awesome. And we could attach a Word doc to an email and send it around the world. It was great. Tim Berners-Lee, a few years later, thought, just sending Word docs around on attached emails is kind of not a great way to do it. Why don't we agree on a new protocol, so a second wave of protocols. We'll call it the World Wide Web. And we'll all agree to write our documents the same way using HTML, and we'll have a transfer protocol to transfer our documents around, and then we can all share our content worldwide for free. Wow, amazing. So, now we have a communication system, and now we have a content system, all free. Any kid in Senegal can make a website and launch it, and pretty soon attach even a credit card payment schedule to it and sell Senegalese music worldwide. And we had a new kind of global digital economy emerging. But of course, our data layers were not decentralized yet, and our currencies were not decentralized. We still used credit cards and PayPal, and we had to log into Facebook and every other kind of thing. So now with blockchain, we've got a secure data layer that we can put our ID on, and we control it. We've got native digital currencies now. And so what we really needed then, what I thought was a better way to understand and visualize our visionary projects, because we've got to enroll people into them more, and we've got to encourage more people to do more projects. That's the only way we're going to accelerate this thing. And so just the way that the World Wide Web protocols allowed anybody to make a website, we created a new set of protocols to allow anybody to make web spaces. Now, what could that mean? That means that a project now could have its own domain, and it could do its own ICO. And so it could raise money directly from the public worldwide. And those could be small projects at a community level, down to a school, all the way up to large-scale projects where the government of France does it. So it's a new financing mechanism, and it's a new visualization medium, because what we've done is we've integrated the visualization technologies of virtual reality and augmented reality, which young people are dying for. They've been growing up with computer games. They love this stuff. So they're native to it. So that's the interface layer. The logic layer is smart contracts, but with AI, they become smarter contracts. And so now you've got data at the data layer, you've got the blockchain. So now you've got a powerful new tool where you can actually have the complete life cycle of an impact project from initial concept stage where it's built all in virtual worlds and all registered to the chain. It's then put out to the communities of interest so everybody's able to inhabit them and walk through them and comment on them, and you can get refined designs really rapidly. That then becomes a high quality reference model for what needs to be built. So everybody signs off on it, it's agreed, the contractors build it, whoever they are, and they're also registered on the chain, all their activities are registered, so we have a complete record of this project coming forward now. Finally, when the project's done and signed off, and of course that links into all the suppliers that are coming into it, all addressing the way the design specified it. Now it becomes an operational tool because you have an absolute digital twin of the project. So now you can actually observe the project and get real-time readouts of your wind turbines or whatever. And if a wind turbine goes down, you know exactly which wind turbine went down, and a maintenance person can climb the tower, and they've got a full augmented reality model of that turbine, and they know the part that has to be repaired. They repair it. The repair is on the blockchain, and you have a complete record now of every maintenance activity that's happened on that thing. Well, that's obviously great. You can educate the public with that. You can use it to run it. If you need to duplicate it, you've got more than a blueprint. You've got a real working copy of the whole thing. You can actually replicate it in multiple places around the world really rapidly. Or if you see a certain part or two that's not working right, you can realize, oh, those things need to be replaced, bring in best minds and best practices, and upgrade the whole system. And then finally, obviously training people and educating people so that they can get jobs in these new areas. And I think they're inspirational at that level. As soon as people start to see them, oh, anybody can make these things? Oh, let's make one ourselves for our town. You know, we need a new medical clinic. Let's ICO that. Let's build it out, let everybody agree on it and build it out and walk through it. Let's build a new community center. Or at a larger scale level, let's save a big portion of the rainforest or whatever. So we've got detailed geospatial location. We can work with people like Michael and Greg and others that are doing great work on the ground. And we've got the protocols then that really allow those things. And then every project that uses the protocol can migrate between them. So they're like web spaces, they're like web pages. So we've really created a 3D World Wide Web. And that's really what Versus is all about. And we hopefully, that'll be kind of what a jet engine is to a prop. It'll really accelerate the process.
Thank you, Dan. So many applications. I would also love to have some time to open discussion for Q&A, because I would love to engage our audience. I think that's important, especially on this panel. Hannan, you are a 20-year veteran at United Nations and an advisor of Climatecoin, which is a company I've been advising for 2 years, and worked in more than 40 countries, including working with Secretary General Ban Ki-moon during the Paris process. And Climatecoin has been tokenizing carbon credits. Can you tell us what are the problems in your marketplace, in your industry, and what are the solutions that Climatecoin is bringing to the table?
Sure, and I'll try and be succinct. I think most of us in this room are aware that the progress that we need to make to a low-carbon economy is not happening fast enough. And I think Patricia Espinosa made that quite clear going into Bonn about 6 weeks ago, and in the aftermath, in the run-up to COP24 in Katowice at the end of this year. The adoption of renewable energies, while it has accelerated over the last decade very impressively, and there's been several excellent testimonies to that over the course of this event so far, is still not enough. And the divestment away from carbon-intensive production and consumption systems is not happening fast enough. So she's basically framed it for us that we have until 2020 in order to be within a grasp of the goals of the Paris Agreement, which were to limit average global temperature rise to 2 degrees, preferably 1.5, by 2060. One layer down from that, rather depressing macro outlook, is the fact that some of the principal response mechanisms are fragmented and broken. The previous panel alluded to this when referring to the current state of the carbon markets. According to the International Renewable Energy Agency and the World Bank, depending on how you classify these instruments, there are about 50 plus minus carbon trading schemes globally. These only cover a small fraction of the total annual greenhouse gas emissions from the world economy. And as a result of this, there is something within the Paris process called a ratcheting mechanism. And it is exactly how it sounds, that over the course of the next several years, 3, 5, 7 years, there is an expectation that every national jurisdiction will significantly increase its ambitions to reduce or establish a fixed permanent limit on greenhouse emissions within a set time frame. The US is in INDC from 2016 actually reported on net carbon emission reductions over the last decade or so in the United States, but a lot of that was attributable to the effects of the financial crisis. Now, countries do need to increase their ambitions. Now, the question is, how does one, and let me switch from that, if you like, description of the scenario in broad brushstrokes, to what we do? Well, frankly, none of the institutional mechanisms, the market mechanisms, the public options, the mobilization that's occurring, massive though it is, at the local, provincial levels, is adequate. It's simply not enough. We need an exponential catapulting into a level of climate action that involves far many more people, far many more actors in individual personal capacity, institutional capacity, state capacity, than is currently the case together to date. And in the process, to weave together the means with which we are able to mitigate carbon emissions. At the current rate, countries like Niue, Tuvalu, Palau will be gone by mid-century. These countries have already established evacuation plans. Where they're evacuating to is not yet clear, but nevertheless, they are already working on the assumption that they will be depopulated within the space of a generation. What are we doing? At Climatecoin, we want to help make that exponential transition. It's one of the reasons I left the UN. It's the same reason I joined the UN, to change the world. With Climatecoin, we have a token. You've heard enough about tokens up until now. We called it CO2. Sitting behind it are carbon credits. Currently 4 types of carbon credits. When you purchase a token, you essentially purchase 1 ton equivalent of carbon credits. So on the back of this proposition, in the last 6 months since we were launched in Davos, we've met with shipping firms, airlines, provincial governments, sovereigns, pension funds, looking at ways in which we can integrate this offer into their own plans, their self-autonomous, locally conceived plans for their own constituencies, in such a way that we can democratize climate action.
Thank you, David. We don't have a lot of time, but I didn't hear from you, Greg, about region.network. If you could please elaborate more and maybe tell us if you were not using blockchain technologies, could you still be accomplishing what you were going to accomplish or what you're going to accomplish?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So there's just so much rich stuff to explore here, but so I'd like to just maybe go on a quick exploration of what we're doing and what it would look like without the blockchain and what it is going to look like because we're using distributed ledger technology. So what we're doing is we're working on creating authenticated proof of ecological state. What does that mean? We want to be able to bring verified information about soil health or water health or biodiversity from anywhere on the planet and seamlessly integrate it into smart contracts, tokens, carbon credits, decision-making, policy, et cetera, to create this sort of global intelligence system. You can do a lot of that in a centralized way. I can create an algorithm. I can run it on Google Earth Engine. I can pull some Landsat information about a forest somewhere, and I can pump out a result. But that result is siloed. It continues to exist in a siloed data environment. And furthermore, the steps, the computation, the data, and the claims associated with it are opaque. So really someone can only see that I have said that this is the outcome and you can trust me. So that's currently how carbon trading and most other things are working, right? We sort of put our trust in a third party, right? So the basic mechanism, it could happen without blockchain. But in order to create a whole community, in order to have a community which is saying we value ecological wisdom and knowledge to such an extent that we together are going to find the ways to verify, structure data, and bring all of that forth in order to have a commons management system and a marketplace that represents that true cost, you really can't accomplish that without the kind of governance and structured, authenticated data layer that blockchain represents and brings forward. So that's a brief. Yeah.
Very well said.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. there's a wealth of knowledge here, and everybody is going to be here sticking around for a few hours, and I think everybody's going to be here till tomorrow. And I would love everybody to get to know how what every single person is doing in the panel about their projects. We're running out of time, but we have a little bit of time left, I would say 50 seconds. And anybody has questions, one or two questions?
Question.
Sure, go ahead. I like the audience to be engaged.
Hey, so there's a lot of hype about blockchain, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of amazing hype about ICOs. People don't really understand what you guys understand in the general populace. So with the volatility of blockchain, Bitcoin, all of these different things, how do you explain the value of an ICO, and how do you potentially help people navigate those waters? Because there are thousands of them, and just curious on your thoughts in that regard.
I think we can only take only your question, so anybody who likes to answer.
I would take a crack at it.
Go ahead,
briefly.
Greg.
Well, it's a much longer, I mean, the answer would be too long, I think, to give it justice. But I think it's important to just be clear with folks that there is a lot of hype, and and at the same time, we're still operating in the same world that we did, that we were operating pre-ICO. If you commit fraud, you're probably going to go to jail. Issuing a crypto asset doesn't suddenly give you like a magical ticket. In fact, if anything, operating in the blockchain world increases transparency and accountability. And so it's a very interesting thing because we're creating open ledgers around everything. So really, although there is hype and there are people pulling bad things, that happens all the time. I oftentimes cringe when I hear people say, oh, Bitcoin, it's just used by drug dealers. It's like, how much drug trafficking goes on with US dollars? Okay, so let's just be honest about the relative scale of things and take that off the table for a second and then ask, what are we really investing in? And you're investing in the people, in the idea, and in the potential, and that could fail or it could succeed. And it's very similar to what the process you need to go through to vet an equity investment. So I think we can sort of honor that there's a lot of hype, and we can also acknowledge that the hype is there because there's serious transformational power. So
I don't know. Can David add something real quick? Dan, sorry.
The other thing I think I would recommend everybody to take a moment, and there's a lot of good videos on YouTube, and there's a lot of good work on the Medium website where you can really read into these things. But we don't generally in the industry, we don't call it ICOs, we call them token sales, because at the end of the day, instead of buying a share of stock, you're buying a token. And the token is a very curious new animal. And what it does is it aligns the interest of the founders, of the investors, and the users of the system. We're all token holders. So we all have an interest in the network that the token is being used in. And the only way the token goes up in value over time is if the network grows. And the only reason the network grows is because the network is serving the needs of people in an amazing way, better than alternatives. So we all have an aligned interest in making this network. I call it network gardening. We're really network gardeners. We're trying to make this thing flourish because to serve our audience really, really well, that brings in more users, and there's a triple win on that. Investors win, users win, founders win, everybody wins. So this is a really wonderful new thing. Take that to the bank. I'm telling you, it's awesome.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being on the panel.
I learned that from Bill.
Please get to know everybody here. Thank you, everybody.